Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Always Forward podcast. And this one, my man Byron Rodgers.
Boom, what up, y'all?
The can I say the protector? Are you the protector?
You know, I'm working on it. I'm definitely getting up in there. Well, as best as I can, man. Heck yeah.
So Marine, father, husband, badass father, badass protector, badass Marine, and an overall just an absolute badass man. I heard you talk. We've been circling each other's, for years now.
Yeah.
And we finally got a chance to hang out at the Roger Up event, and you talked a lot about, man, your talk was just, I was like, dude, I need to hire this guy to come talk to my people.
Wow, that means a lot, brother. That means a lot, man. Thank you. Thank you.
So, obviously, let's real quick. You served in the Marine Corps. What years? So just give people kind of a background.
Oh yeah, so I was in 04, 08, and then got out, got right into executive protection at 21. Hit my first 60 countries in that first year, and then I can go. The rest is history. But the only two jobs I've had is Marine Corps, executive protection. And then got into all the other crazy things I'm doing. Got a master's in psychology, and wrote a book called Finding Meaning After the Military. It's a couple of things.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
On Amazon, where can they get that book?
Yeah, man.
Let's just plug it right now.
It's on Amazon. It's out there on Amazon. Finding Meaning After the Military, and it's just all about the tools I use to survive, and essentially create the reality that you see me living now. After my time, man, find that new fight, lean into it even harder than we used to. Because, once you're a warrior, man,
it's harder,
dude. You can't unbeat it.
It's harder.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It is harder. I was telling something that the other day. I was like, this is way more.
It's funny,
dude.
I thought I used to work hard. Granted, physically and mentally, it was taxing.
Yep.
But I thought I used to work hard in the military, and now I laugh. I'm like, no, bro, I was off. Like, if I was home, bro, you're off by like 4, if that. Like, you show up, do team PT, and you're like, well, we ain't got nothing going on, so you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm out there mowing my lawn at like 11 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday.
Yeah, man.
Not no more.
No, get that.
Not no more.
I'm right there with you, bro. I am 24/7. Like, I'm having to, like, even, when I'm with my family, I'm having to, like, grab myself and be like, be present. Hey,
yeah,
battlefield, dude. Be present for these.
Because everybody's pulling at you, right?
Oh, dude. Right?
It's something we all deal with.
Yeah, man. Right now, especially when you're doing this non-standard problem solving called being an entrepreneur, I got 207 text messages right now. Like, this stuff is happening at the speed of light, man. And you're just... Yeah. Your decision making, even you can get decision making fatigue, and it pulls on you on an emotional, like, mental, soul, spirit, all these different levels. It's like the physical part of me is like one of the easiest equations to solve and maintain.
Right.
And then you got to have vision and, like, moving, like, what are we fighting for? Where are we going? And you got to get results through other people.
But I think that's where people kind of like on the entrepreneur side, especially if you get out of the military and you go in, we have this inherent ability to go into deployment mode, right?
Yeah.
And to go all into like our work. But then that's where people start to struggle in their physical aspects, their relationships, all the other, like, yeah, great. The business is growing. You're throwing yourselves into work.
Yeah.
But where's it's like, you're going to get to the finish line alone. And this is where, like, well, I can't find balance. Well, no, you can't find balance because there's no such thing as priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, when you're with your family, it's like I'm making an intentional decision to be present with them with the time that I have there.
Yep.
And that's a very hard thing to do. Yep. It's not that you don't love them or anything like that, but it's, when you're mission orientated, when you're focused on an objective, we have to maintain our priorities.
Yeah, man.
And it's something we talked about. But hey. Let's before we get into the EP stuff, I want to talk to you about your talk. Can you, like, where did this come from? What's the theme of it? Break it down for the people so they understand, because we talk a lot about that subject on the podcast, and it's something that They're like, Nick, why do you talk about this all the time? Because you motherfuckers are still fucked up and you're not living right. So I'm going to keep talking about it until everybody's fixed. And until then, that's which is not going to happen. So I'm going to keep fucking talking about it. And you guys are just going to have to get used to it. Start living right. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Hit me.
So 2 talks. I went on deliberate reality creation, the alchemy of the mind. And then I went on masculinity. Mm-hmm. Which book do you want me to go? Which one do you want me to go after?
Let's go into that masculinity talk.
Oh, yeah. That's what's up, brother. Yeah, man. I think it's so terribly important because we're getting so much so much information, so much what could seem to be guidance. We're saturated in a world that's predatory, I believe, against men and masculinity. And now I think we're looking at the fruit of a generation that was raised without honor and value and respect in many different ways. There have been participation trophies. Emotionalism has really come to the forefront, and we're watching our society freaking break down, man. And it is, in my opinion, a national security concern. It's a huge concern for where we're going to be tomorrow. And kind of really, for me, where that talk came from was just, walking around this world and seeing young men afraid to say hi, like afraid to look me in the eyes, afraid to like just shake hands, just give the nod, the I see you see me, we mean each other, no harm nod, it goes all the way back to like the ancient knights and the samurais when men were dangerous,
Not to throw your state under the bus, but I was just out in California. And
get 'em.
Johnny Slicks was out there with me, and he said, "Dude," because I went to the gym and he went to a park to do some runs and stuff like that. And he's like, "Bro, what is with everybody here?" I would say good morning to someone, and they wouldn't even look at me.
Yep.
Like another grown man, like a grown man. He's like, "Hey, good morning," and would not even he's just like looking down at his feet and just would scurry off. He's like, "What the hell is that wrong with everybody?" I'm like, "Bro, they're just not connected here, man."
100%.
Anyways,
that was a huge friction point for me. I used to live in like Southern Orange County, like the Plastic Circus part, and I legit had to I left. I moved down to North Orange County because there's more working class folks and more people that'll like actually say good morning and stuff. Because for me, it used to frustrate me a lot, but now I have a lot of compassion for these dudes, because they just don't understand masculinity and what to do. And it really was hard for me because I was raised old school in the Bahamas with a really masculine father, and in Washington State, where it's the same blue collar type environment when I was there. So when I got to Cali, I was like, how come no one's saying hi? Like, I'm 240-pound black dude who's been trained, like been to war. I don't have to say hi to you. Like, I could literally take your lunch money and your machine that you're trying to work out on. But no, I'm a nice guy,
right.
But I had to start to realize that like these dudes have had no training, and then you see them like kind of looking at you, like sizing you up, looking at your biceps and stuff. And so what I see in this world is, one, I see a void, and that void has to do with just men understanding how to be healthy, mature, safe, powerful men. There's the negative side with the underdeveloped, immature, masculine ego bullcrap. And then there's like the uber feminine side. And what I want guys to realize is it's okay to be a straight up confident. Remember, arrogance is inaccurate confidence. Confident man who knows his value. Because when you're a fully developed man, you are the most important and safest thing in our society. You're like the sun in an ecosystem. You're a life-giving. You got enough sperm in your ball sack right now to fertilize every chick on this planet 2 times. Like when you are doing your function, you are providing protection, provision, finance. It is to your glory how good you're able to be to people and how strong and safe you're able to make an environment, and it's not about cool or any of this other bull crap, and so I want to help guys find that path, man. And I had to find it for myself, because my pops was a really successful businessman. And yeah, he was uber masculine, but he wasn't there. So that talk is just something that I try to wake guys up to the reality of like, when did you become a man? When did you go from being a dependent to becoming dependable? The type of individual that can be a freaking like a foundation for others, or that can provide for others. And is that an act, a deed, or is that a lifestyle? And in my opinion, unless you fall into arrogance because it's something you did once upon a time, it's got to be a lifestyle, and it's got to be strong, so that when you get, checked by either your significant other, someone you're dating, life itself, you actually have something to fall back on. You actually have some war trophies to look back and say, you know what? I made it through this. I made it through that. I have what it takes to push through this, and I'm not going to fail here, because failure is not an option for us. Women and children and like puppies and stuff, they can just be cute, and society will accept them. But for men, it really is, your masculinity has a lot to do with performance, not your feelings. Nobody cares, man. I could say some things, but I don't know how crazy we get on here.
You can get as crazy as you want, man. I don't give a shit. But it really is, man. There is a somewhat double standard. And some people go, like the mental health with men and this and that because of the double standard. But at the end of the day, it's like, it is performance based, and you need to step up to the fucking plate. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody cares, bro. Oh, this is hurts, and I got an injury, and I got this going on, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, look, dude, those are all valid things. Those are all real. I get that.
Yep.
It's real.
Yep.
Guess what? It doesn't change the fact that you need to perform.
Yep. Win anyway. So like,
right.
Win anyway. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Great.
Fail? You're gonna let this be the reason you didn't become anything, and you couldn't get a female in your life that you wanted, or whatever your goal is. Like, you're gonna let that's how it's gonna go. This is absolutely freaking unacceptable. You know what I mean? So that's the masculine.
And that's it. I was talking to somebody who wanted to come on the Agoge, and he and I have a lot of these conversations that are just absolutely like, your mind would be blown.
Yeah.
Maybe not. You'd be like, yep, this is exactly why I talk about the things I talk about.
Yeah.
But I asked him, what's your profession?
Mm.
What do you do? And he said, well, I'm a disabled vet. Okay. So am I. I still have a job.
Yeah.
And he's in his 40s. He goes, well, I guess I'm retired. No. What is it that you do?
Yeah.
And I felt like I was like, okay, so we need to unpack that. Why are you allowing yourself to not do anything?
Right.
Well, I got injuries. Listen, dude.
Let's go deeper.
Let's go deeper. There's Travis Mills. I don't think he has I think he's got like one finger and like one leg or something, or maybe not, you know what I mean? And then you've got the young guy, Nicholas something, who's got no arms, no leg. Right. He's one of the international best. Like, he's a fucking killer, bro. He's a killer. He runs around doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah. He's changing people's lives. Like, dude, there's no, like, I don't give a shit. Well, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and I've got this, and my back hurts. Yep. And like, yeah, dude, I look like the freaking crypt keeper coming up out of bed every morning at 5 a.m.
Yep.
I get it, bro. I understand. But it doesn't stop fucking there.
Right.
It doesn't stop there.
And that,
anyways.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. That's the masculine equation, man. No one cares. Okay. You've got to win anyway. We all have our problems. I remember I think one of the most popular pieces of content that I put out, and you know me, dude, I drop content like a freak, man. 1 to 2 videos a day, right? But there's this one.
Yeah, if you're so on that, if you're not following him, please go follow him. Not only because he does drop some good content, but he actually breaks down a lot of scenarios to where it changes your perception of the way that you should be.
Yeah.
So, little plug for go follow him on Instagram. It's very, very good. Hit it. Anyways, continue.
Appreciate you, brother. Byron_Rodgers. Well, so I'm sitting here, I'm dropping all this stuff, and putting my heart, mind, soul, money into it. One post. It was a picture of 3 black guys, a bailiff, a criminal, and a lawyer. And I said, choice over everything. This life will give you back in direct proportion the quality of your decisions. literally my most popular piece of content ever. I was like a freaking firefight. The worst part is I was fighting all black people underneath there. They were like, damn, my black card got taken 800 times, and they're like, I'm a victim of racism that doesn't realize I'm a victim of racism. And I'm just like, I really, to Uncle Tom, whitewashed, and I'm just sitting here listening to the victim identity that people have been seduced into accepting, and I think it's the most corrosive bullcrap in the world, because at the end of the day, man, I'm a dude that came from a lower middle class home. I went into the military.
Yeah.
I enlisted. I got blown up 5 times. Fortunately, by the grace of God, survived the trash. Then got out, and I'm still not that smart. I'm just a hard worker, right? And then I get into start entrepreneurial stuff. And now, man, we're hammering. We're changing people's lives. I'm getting people into executive protection, helping dudes with all this stuff. Yeah. And it's the most beautiful life I can literally imagine, because I found my new fight and I leaned into that trash and went to war with weaker versions of myself, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm like, you can literally be anything you want to be, but where everyone loses is their mindset, man. And this whole masculinity thing is like, you're going to be sold all these lies about how it's okay to just be a disabled vet, and your parents and your mommy and daddy aren't there. I'm from a broken home too, and you're black, so it's just gonna be harder for you. And you know what? All that trash might be true. I was told you're gonna have to be twice as smart to get half as much respect. You should go into it telling yourself, no matter what color, because now white dudes getting picked on more than black people. I'm like, I'm like an endangered species. I pull up, I can whip out a black card, I whip out a disabled veteran card. I got moves, I got a full hand. But the reality is, use everything you have to your advantage and win anyway. And that's the masculine thing, because what happens when you're on that path is, at the end of the day, you sit there and you look at yourself and you're like, you know what? I found a way to do it. And you have actual confidence. Confidence comes from experience with yourself, rather than arrogance, which is inaccurate confidence, which is you hiding instead of going after sacrificing those weaker versions of yourself and finding your new fight. And that's just life stuff before we get to the masculinity stuff. If you're a man, you're going to get challenged, man. Your girl's going to challenge you. She has to challenge you if she's going to be able to trust in you, if she's going to be able to know what you're even made of. It's like an organic part of courting. Everything's going to be great. Honeymoon period. Right after honeymoon period comes, let's see what this man's really made of, and if I should really tie myself to him for life. Like, let's see. And then life's going to do the same thing. So, as I look at, developing, the first part of my life was about becoming physically formidable. It was the Marine Corps. It was like, what can I do? And then once I achieved that and came back from war and did all these things and was confident in that area, my Heavenly Father was like, we're sitting here in France at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. And I'm like with a bunch of killers, bro. Like, I got Navy SEALs, Recon Marines. I'm in like an 8-man team. I got Konstantin Konstantinov's my big brother, who's like one of the most world-renowned power lifters. God rest his soul. I got all these dudes sitting here. We're ordering lunch. It's there was like $20 for a Coca-Cola. And I was like, $20? Like, you guys are outside of your, what's this Coca-Cola going to do for me? Am I taking it to the room after this? Like, what's happening? Yeah. And I get that little whisper inside that's like, why are you tripping about this Coca-Cola? And I'm like, well, because lunch is so expensive. And he's like, well, you're at the top of the game. You're at the tip of the spear when it comes to private security. You're in 1% of the private security game. You're over here in Paris. Aren't you winning? And I was like, yeah, but this is still weird. This is still like putting a strain on me. And then I started thinking to myself, and I looked around the table.
It's a wrong mindset.
Exactly, man. And I started looking at the table, and I was like, you know what? If one of us falls in some stupid event that happens today, we die, we get into a car accident. This little flamboyant dude can replace us, who we're protecting, right? Who's up in the room napping at the Ritz-Carlton, balling out of control right now, can replace us in 24 hours. So there's a big difference between strength and power. And I started to realize that. And then I dedicated myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to spend the next quarter of my life developing actual power, actual influence. And that's going to come from what's in here and here. And then I feel like that was another huge step in the maturation process in terms of actually becoming a real quality, healthy, adjusted man or even human But it was good to get the physical stuff out of the way when I was young. You know, like I knew I was a man because I went and I did things and I fought men at 18, 19. But then I continued to sharpen that edge. And when I've been checked, when people, male or female, have checked that, I've been able to look in the mirror and feel good about how I've been able to navigate those decisions. Not because I've always fought, but because what I've done in those decisions never subtracted it away from who I knew I was, because I've always been working on myself so I know who I am. And I think that's the path.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I have to apologize, I'll
so
apologize. If I got to fight, I got to fight. You know?
Because there's no ego involved.
Exactly. That's the truth.
There's no ego. Yeah. So a guy shows up to you, he hits you up, and you're like, hey, I'm not living with purpose. My mindset's all fucked up. I'm not being the man that I'm supposed to be. What path do you put them on? I mean, I've got my own thing that I say, but like, what do you tell these guys when they know they're not living right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a father. He is a man. He's a grown ass man, but he's just not. You know, we see him.
Yeah,
we see these guys, and they're not living with purpose, and they don't have the right mindset. What do you tell them?
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I always tell guys, like, especially veterans, you know, it's like you got to find your new fight. You know, you can't see the top of the mountain from the beginning of the path, like from the walk up. You know, I think a lot of people lose a lot of time being like, oh, what's my purpose in life, and what do I do, and all this stuff. You know, what's my purpose? Like, I have to find my purpose, and it's like, you know, first and foremost, you have no idea what your purpose is. You have to court purpose, right? Like, my purpose has changed like 800 times. Like, I've got 9 failed businesses behind me. You know, like, purpose is like a hot chick across the bar. You're like, just for a fact. Like, you walk over there and you're like, kick it for a few dates, and then you're like, you know what? Like, I don't think I really like her, but you learn
this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work out.
Yeah, man. But you learned what you like. You learned what you don't like. You got a little bit more skill for when you actually do see that dime where it's like, this is actually the one. And I arrived at that after about 8 years of hammering on the path. And every loss I had made me better and stronger and taught me enough about myself to recognize my actual, what I believe is really my life's purpose that I've discovered now, and I'm hammering on. So, like, one of the main,
I'm gonna pull something out of that. You said your losses. For you to lose, you have to go try to do hard things.
Yep.
So would you say part of having the correct mindset is the putting yourself in hard situations?
I'd say that is probably one of the most important pieces, is literally spearheading the things that you're afraid of. Doing the things you fear until the death of fear is certain. Spearheading hard things, because and though sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you learn scenarios, and turning them into I always learn. You know, because you're actually more vulnerable when you win because you think you did it right, and it's hard to know. You know, so yeah, man. I'd say,
but I think that's part of the problem that we have is we live such a soft life, right?
Yep.
You know, and you and I. Granted, when you're on the job, you know, it's not as soft. Actually, it's probably pretty soft in some situations. You know, you're flying private. Yeah. So like, but I tell guys the same thing. I'm like, listen, man, I fabricate hardship in my life. Why? Because I have a nice house. I sleep with my AC at a comfortable 68 degrees. I got a chili pad that is a cool 64 degrees. I got a Tempur-Pedic mattress.
Yep.
You know, my whole life is comfort. I have to fabricate hardship to keep this hard.
Yeah.
You know, and men have, you know, without that, right, without putting themselves through the grinder, we get soft and we get complacent. And when we get soft and we get complacent, it transforms into everything else, our money, our relationships, our fitness, everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like and you said something that's like, you have to fail.
Yeah.
Like you have to put yourself in a position to where you're going to lose a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it hardens you.
Oh yeah,
but that means you're challenging yourself.
100%. Well, you're finding out how fragile you're not. You're finding out the value of
right.
You know, you're developing all the gears you need, the mental, emotional gears you're going to need in order to win ultimately. And you're learning, you know, and that really, because if you win if I got 10 years ago when I thought I wanted all this stuff that I've now been able to create, if I got it then, dude, it would have been a bloodbath. Like one, I wouldn't have been able to hold up under it. I would erect it. Two, God knows what cruise, the type of hood rat stuff I would have done to completely wreck my life without learning all the lessons before getting there. The burden of the blessing will crush you. And if you don't take the time to develop into the man who deserves it, and the only way you develop is that crucible. And so doing hard stuff is literally one of the most important things you need in order to understand who you actually really are and how you're actually progressing. It's going to be, I've learned so much more from pain than I've ever learned from pleasure is one of my favorite sayings. Nothing will bring you closer to destruction than comfort is another one, because that's how we beat everyone else, because we go into the darkness and we get comfortable with it while everyone else. And if you want to stand out and kill the game, whatever industry you're in, go right into what everyone's afraid of and learn to master it. And that's how you will put daylight between you and everyone else who's fighting to be comfortable. 100%, man. That stuff is the best medicine. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. 100%.
So this guy calls you guys message you, he calls you, and you're like, hey, listen, you need to go push the needle in your life.
Yep. And
what about fitness?
I think fitness is honestly, and I kind of hate saying it, because I know people look at me and they're like, oh, well, like you're fit. So like, it's like meathead stuff. Like I don't want them to write me off as like a meathead. Right. But it's literally one of the most important foundational principles, I think, because when I look at you, I see your standards, man. When I look at your physical fitness, I see your physical fitness standards. The way you do one thing is the way you do all the things that you're doing, unfortunately. If you are struggling in that area, it tells me a lot about your inner psychic world, your discipline, all that stuff. Unless you have some type of medical or hormonal imbalance, which you better freaking figure out, because it's really impossible to win without having those things figured out.
But again, that's a problem to solve, right? That's a fucking problem that you can solve. And if you're just using it as an excuse, well, now you're just being a bitch again.
Exactly. Yeah. No, there's really no excuse. Yeah. Win anyway. But in terms of having physical fitness in your life, in your daily regimen, everything, in my opinion, comes out of that. I'm in the gym. People are probably looking at me thinking like, oh, well, he's just trying to stay jacked and tan. Man, I'm in that gym. I'm pushing myself mentally, emotionally, learning how to be comfortable with stress, learning how to be comfortable with pressure, making sure I accurately understand who I am, how strong I am today. You're triggering the right endorphins to have a successful day, to feel powerful, to feel confident. When it comes to physical fit, I honestly don't even know if I can really be friends with somebody like doesn't work. Like on a deep level. I mean, like if you're killing it, you have to have that, because it's the simplest way to really, really know who you are and develop emotionally even what you need, what you're gonna need in order to push through the rest of the fights that you'll be faced with. 100%.
Yeah. And I think you just hit it right there. I was talking to one of my coaches. He was a client. I think you and I talked about this offline. He was a client. He was over 300 pounds. He joined us, and his dad died. Coach Jerry, if you're listening, hats off to you as always. His dad died in his, I think, late 40s. Yeah. And he was heading down that same road. And basically, I think it was congestive heart failure.
Dang.
And he's like, if I don't change something, this is the same road I'm gonna find myself. That's pretty much the same age as my dad. And he changed it. He lost over 100 pounds, and after 2 years of being with us, he became a coach, and now he's freaking crushing life. But we were talking about the last 2 years, and I guess we can kind of start pivoting into the being a protector, because he was like, hey, I'm out with my family, right? I'm out with my daughter, my kids, and my wife, and everything's hunky dory. I'm 300 something pounds. We turn the corner in downtown. Next thing you know, we find ourselves in the middle of a riot.
Whoop.
Or as the Democrats call it, a peaceful protest. Or as MSNBC calls it, a peaceful protest.
Protest, oh boy.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm like, and what would you been able to do? He said, nothing. I would have been a liability. I would have had to tell them to go. and try to get out on their own. I wouldn't have been able to do anything. Physically, I couldn't have done anything. I didn't have the breath. I didn't have the stamina. And he texted me this morning. He said he's flying for work right now. He texted me this morning. He's like, dude, he's like, I saw a guy that literally had to get carted to the airplane in a wheelchair strictly because he was just so overweight.
Dang.
And said, here I am doing laps in the terminal before I get my plane so I can get my steps in.
Yeah.
And he goes, it hit me. He goes, holy fuck, that would have been me. You know, and now I'm over here like fucking doing laps trying to get my steps in before I get on this plane to go fly, you know, across the country.
That's awesome, man.
Because I'm gonna be sitting for so long. You know what I mean? So anyways,
that's some of the best stuff.
Yeah. So let's break down. Talk to me about that. Talk to me kind of like what you run. I don't know if you've got a system. I'm sure you got a system, but people are just, I don't know, living in the white. You know what I mean? Like they're just living in the white. And as a man, you have a responsibility to kind of have your, you know, head on a swivel and be paying attention and and again, being physically fit. So break this thing down for me, man.
Yeah, man. I think, you know, when it comes to being a protector, or when it comes even, you know, like you were talking about that masculine thing just now and that physical fitness thing, that's an equation these guys have to solve, you know. When it comes to being a protector, physical fitness is like the foundation of all of it. Even on my teams, like everyone has, one of my most important interview questions is, you know, what's your physical fitness regimen? I think not physical fitness regimen, but what are your hobbies? I like to find out what their hobbies are. And that's when the jujitsu and the whatever they're into will come out. And I'm like, okay, this guy gets it. Because it's what you do when you're not on the clock is what actually makes it so you can perform when you're on the clock, you know. But in the lives of even, I think I try to look at everyone as a protector. That's really my mission, is to multiply protectors in the world, because protectors are the white blood cells in the body of humanity. And realistically, you know, the most powerful side wins. You know, if there's a shooter, he's going to do whatever he wants until someone else who's formidable shows up. And so if I was going to really break it down into a system, I think the things to be considerate of is your daily regimen. You know, what are you doing inside that day that's going to make you more formidable? I focus on every single day. I'm trying to, at least 5 days a week, I'm trying to do something physical. I'm also trying to make sure I'm learning some skill. Then I'm also trying to make sure that I'm cultivating those relationships that are moving me forward in terms of business, and then also in terms of my actual home life. And those are kind of like, that's essentially what I do. And then I execute on different objectives within that. But most things are relationship driven. Now, you mean like you want a system for like kind of what it would be like to be, what it takes to become a protector, or are we still talking about masculinity and personal development?
No, I mean, like if you're out with your family, like what are the concepts that you need? Because like I said, man, for the most part, everyone across the board is just oblivious.
Zombie.
And they live in this wonderland world that nothing will ever happen to them. They see stuff on the internet, they see stuff on the media, but that's like, that will never happen to me.
Right.
Until it does.
Right.
There recently was a study where, did you see that? I think it was a actual MSNBC report. I'm not really sure where it came from, but it was basically talking about, they took criminals, and I'm probably bastardizing this, but they took criminals and they went and looked at people. They used the criminals to look at people and say, and kind of rate them on like, who, do you know what I'm talking about?
I saw an interview with an inmate that was talking about how he selects a target or selects a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
And he was basically like, and it was all the stuff we learned in the Marine Corps. He's like, his physical fitness,
right,
the way his uniform is, the way he carries his body.
Yeah.
He's like all these things.
The way he walks.
Yep.
Yeah, the way he walks, his demeanor.
Yeah. And
they kind of like broke it down to where like how they selected a victim.
Yep, 100%. And he's like, and I know if that dude's uniform is disheveled and he's out of shape, he's not going to know how to fight. He's not going to be sharp, and his awareness is going to be lacking, and I'm going to catch him when he's not paying attention. And that's the truth. So like, if I was going to give you like a 101 on not being a zombie, not being a sheeple, an easy target when you're out with your family.
Exactly. That's yeah. How do we change our mindset to where we are hard targets, and when they look at us and they look at their family, they go, I'm gonna wave off on them and pick somebody else.
Yeah, man.
How do we become that?
100%. So those tactical protection reviews you mentioned earlier are aimed directly at that equation. Because I got 5 sisters, and I'd be trying to tell them like, hey, don't sit in your car and send a text message, get your car rolling. And they're like, oh, you're just the security guy. Like, no one believes, like, who am I? I'm just, and I'm like, you know what? Good. I'm going to take real world violence. I'm going to put it in front of you. This happened today somewhere. And now I'm going to walk you through how you could have avoided it. And it's experiential information. Their brain sees it as like, we're microdosing some trauma here. That was horrible. I don't want that to happen to me. And it becomes real, right? So one of the things that people just talk about all the time that I think is almost useless, but it's in the right direction, is situational awareness. They're like, situational awareness. You need to have more situational awareness. I'm like, yeah, but like, what does that mean to the normal person who's like maybe lived in Orange County their whole life and like hasn't got jumped yet? Come on, what does that really mean? And so to me, I break it down into a few steps. You need to obviously be situational aware, but there's like your protection, like I'd say 85 to 90% of it is all soft skill centric. It's before we get to your Judy chop and your karate chop and your 1 second draw and all that stuff. It has everything to do with your pattern of life, the way you move through the world, and the soft skills you use to understand where you're at, where you're going, the risk levels involved, and the way you choose to do that. So I break that down into a few steps. The first thing is context. Okay. Where am I going? 80% of these attacks happen when you're in a transitional space. All right, so cool. I'm going to the store. What kind of or I'm going to a house party. What kind of threat level or what kind of threats should I be thinking about, or what risk level should I be considering? I'm going to be around a bunch of people. I don't know who they are, what they do, and there's going to be alcohol and different things like that. So I should probably be somewhat aware in this environment. So context, I'm walking home. I'm going home from work, and I'm going to be getting on an elevator to go into a parking garage. Context: elevator, risk; parking garage, risk. These are transitional spaces. 80% of these attacks happen in transitional spaces. So I'm going to a restaurant with my family. Okay, relatively safe, but we're still going to be out in the public, so I should be paying attention. So that's the first thing I always kind of get people to pay attention to. What's the context? Am I?
That's a really good point. Transitional spaces.
Yeah, man.
Like thinking about your transitions. Yeah.
Because 80% of those videos, they have made over 100 of them. They're happening around vehicles, in gas stations, from your car front door to your house front door, from your house to from your car to your place of work. Transitional spaces are micro and macro. So it's like if you're going to fly from Cali to New York, that's a gigantic transitional space. If you're going from the curb at the airport to your hotel room, that's another transitional space you should be paying attention to. You get attacked in these spaces because you're not really familiar with these environments. So first of all, what's the context of where I'm going? Can I get gas like tomorrow morning instead of doing it at nighttime in the hood? These are the little things that you do that actually mitigate all kinds of risk in your life just by thinking this way off the bat. The next thing is tactical positioning. So let's say I am getting some gas, right? And I'm sitting there pumping, and someone is starting to appear in my quarter panel back here, and someone's around me. Why is that person in my corner panel? Why is that person trying to be approaching me from a place I don't see? If I get onto an elevator, I'm going to grab a spot that gives me the most visual mastery of my environment so I can see anything coming my way. Sit down at a restaurant. People might make fun of you, but my wife already knows where I'm going to want to sit. You know what I'm saying? She's like, he wants that seat. I'm like, yep. She didn't even tell the waitress. We probably should just move to this table because he's going to want to move to that other table in the corner. So, but that tactical positioning piece gives you the time you may need to react to something, to leave, to maybe not even have to fight if something happens, because you have the most visual mastery of your environment, and you're hyper aware of where other people are. If they start moving into vulnerable areas, like you hop on an elevator and someone gets behind you, maybe you just, you put your back against the wall and, you know, you put something in your hand that you're ready to shove through the credit card box between their eyes if you need to, you know. This is how you stay ahead of the game. And then rolling risk assessment. Who in my environment? So context, I already know where I'm going, and I've kind of adjusted, you know, my level of awareness to that. Tactical positioning. I'm placing myself in positions of advantage in my environment that are going to give me visual mastery and help me react. Rolling risk assessment. Who in my environment is an anomaly that's above the baseline of what is socially acceptable? I'm at a gas station. Cool. Everyone's pumping gas. Everyone's walking in and out of the gas station, little store there. Cool. But like, why is my dude in the hoodie just standing over here, you know, in the corner surveilling everybody, you know, like what's he doing? Maybe I'll give him a little more awareness. Maybe I'll kind of pay attention to what he's up to and make sure he doesn't come near me. You know, I'm at curbside at an airport. You know, everyone seems like they're waiting for their Uber. They're hopping in their Uber. But what's this one dude sitting in the corner just watching people making calls on his phone? You know, that's the guy who might be the lookout for whatever happens next. You know, so paying attention to people that don't have an alibi. You're at a park. Everyone's playing with their family. There's one dude that's just not making sense as to why he or she, we is there, right? And yeah, there's nothing wrong with looking at military-age males, checking out how they're dressed. You know, if it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, it might be a duck. That's perfectly fine. You know, behavioral profiling. These things are definitely good. If every gangster in your environment happens to be a black or Latino dude or a white dude, then guess what? Maybe if you see some of those dudes, you should pay attention. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with basic survival skills. Everyone's profiling. You just profiled that hot chick that just walked in. If you're doing sales work, you're profiling people all day, every day. This is just part of life. Like, deal with it. Yeah. So then comes, that rolling risk assessment and paying attention to the humans around you and looking how each and every one of them increases or decreases risk. And then ultimately the fourth layer is have a plan, man. Have a plan. I'm sitting here, something weird happens. Me and my family's going that way. There's probably a back door through the kitchen. Maybe I took a lap around the building to see if there's a back door that came out the kitchen before I sat down at the restaurant. And if I really feel unsafe about an environment, but always having a plan, like, all right, I'm about to get on an elevator. I'm a female. Some dude standing here. He's kind of positioning himself behind me. I start to feel a little bit weird. You know, I get myself to where I can watch him. And then instead of getting on the elevator with him, because, you know, I override my instinct, maybe I just go back to a public place and get the next elevator. These are the little things that help you avoid so much risk in your life. And then obviously there's training for after the event when you're right of bang and it's time to whip it on. But you can avoid 80 to 90% of it by just these 4 pillars of awareness, in my opinion.
Excellent, man. Yeah, and I think going back to the very first one is just presenting that hard target, right? If you're physically fit and you look the part, right? People go, I don't know if I want to jump on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I go to a lot of places when they see me, you know, I travel abroad and I present myself in a certain way. They look at me, they go, it's not a dice that I want to roll. Could I do something? Yeah, maybe.
Right.
But is it worth it versus just taking the other guy that's obvious not going to be a problem?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And all that comes before you get into deterrence value, you know, like that stuff that could help, like the 110-pound single mom. Now you start to couple that with, you know, us being formidable in the first place. Yeah. You know, and I talked a little bit about this on the masculinity thing, being formidable and the deterrence value you bring into an environment. I walk into an elevator, everyone gets uncomfortable. You know, like 90% of people are like, you know, and it's awesome because I feel like men should carry that. You know, I walk onto an airplane and, you know, I got people clutching their purse. They're kind of like trying to size me up. I got dudes like looking at my biceps, trying not to get caught looking at my biceps. That's what should be happening. You know what I mean? And whether they know it or not, they're all safer for me being there. And then that same old lady that clutched her purse, you know, and when she's trying to put her bag up in the overhead compartment, I'm gonna help her put her bag up in the overhead compartment, you know, and that's the beauties of being formidable. Literally, the robbery might not happen in 7-Eleven just by a consequence of the law of your being and your presence there. that's what
Yeah, I got to
be.
I got a sad story, and just for women, you can still be a 125-pound woman and still look formidable, because you got to think like, and it's a very sad situation. It happened here locally, but my wife is very fit.
Yeah.
She walks with a purpose.
Yep.
She so she even looks like,
don't mess with me.
Kind of like I wish a motherfucker would, because she kind of walks around with that attitude. Unfortunately, she was walking into a shop, and literally a minute she left, a guy went in there, a young man who was obviously like mentally unstable, and murdered the person working in the building.
Dang.
And yeah, and in a sad situation, because I just came back from overseas.
Yeah.
I had a meeting at my office, so she stayed out so that I could do the meeting, and then we were going to link up afterwards. So I wouldn't, if something went down, I would not have even seen my wife. But come to find out, he was profiling that place. I imagine he saw her and was like, I'm going to wait for her to leave, because she's wearing a tank top. She's got, she's lean.
Yeah.
Looks like she would be more of a problem than it needs to be.
Complicated.
And unfortunately, it complicates the situation. And so for women out there, like, you can be, there's a level of that you can also be yourself. If you're physically fit, you're rocking some nice little mosquito bite biceps. You look like you're fit. You look like you would put up a fight. That's a deterrent.
100%.
Versus the person who's overweight or something that looks like, as soon as I start grabbing them, they're going to be out of breath. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's a different situation.
I think there's also, and this still goes back into the fitness category. Like, I think there's also something to be said for this, just the intimidation factor of a fit, attractive female. Like, if you're there to do something bad, like, there's just an organic reaction men have to like a fit, attractive female walking around who's not scared of you, who you're already going to be worried about.
Yeah, exactly.
Your phone number. You're going to wait till she leaves. You know what I mean? And you're quick. And the reality of profiling human behavior is so real. And part of what I try to teach is, you need to kind of think like these predators. Like, you need to be kind of like a serial killer when you're making your assessments of people, and that you're looking at, like, how much confidence does this person have? What's their posture look like while they're walking around? Is their head in their phone? Like, how do they grab the door? Like, how disheveled is their clothing? And is there any like strength in the way they carry themselves? Or are they just kind of like, just flibbity flobby gushing around? Because that's going to tell you a lot. And if you're a female, the big one for them, I think, is the awareness. If you're a female and you are aware, and you do look that dude, look directly at him, and then go back to doing what you're doing, and you do kind of check people in your environment. When I walk into a room, I look every single person in the eyes, because there's just communication that happens instantly. Like, I know who's who in the zoo. They first and foremost see that you're confident enough to look them in the eyes. And it really helps you feel out the room and understand. I think everyone should do that when you walk into a new environment. And you also look like you're obviously not the timid person to be hunted once you leave that room as well.
Yeah. So looking at this let's look at what is your assessment of the way the direction is going based off the last 2 years? Do you feel like it's like men and being protectors for themselves and their families and leveling up their own life? Do you think it's going to get worse? Or do you think that the last 2 years has created an environment for men to be like, kind of be woken up? So I have my own opinion on this. I want to know what your opinion is. Yeah,
man, it's interesting. I definitely have noticed, I think men are waking up to a number of things when it comes to male.
So you feel that as well. That's what I feel like. I feel like there's a tide that's finally turning back to the other direction, and it really was because of kind of what's happened in the last 2.5 years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know why you think that.
No, I think that, but I also think there's a caveat, because what I've noticed is like, and I don't think anyone's too far gone. You know what I mean? But I feel like those who still have some of that in them will. you know. I've also seen some men where I'm just like, man, you have, I don't know if like the ones that don't have it in them, they run the other direction. They run blue pill. They run to the blue pill. Like they run to the white knighty type stuff. And I noticed that the guys that do have some of that in them, they're watching us right now. They're looking for ways to kind of like be more formidable. We're talking to something inside of them right now. But you can give the same, it's like the gospel. Like you can give the same message to a group of dudes, and the ones that still have that in them will be like, that's bangarang, there's something there. But then I've noticed some of them will just be like, and run away. And I don't know what that is, but I think overall, I'm noticing women are looking for more masculine men. I think that whole, I'm hearing that a way more, that there's no men, like what the heck's going on? I even think, you know, even though it's not as loud, I think a lot of women, especially the ones in like their 30s, are starting to be like, maybe we were wrong about some of this stuff. And I think that men are also starting to wake up quickly to how corrosive this is to their overall life, man. I hope, but also it's some hope, man, because I don't ever want to think things are going to go in a good direction. I always plan for the worst, hope for the best. Yeah. You know, but I agree with you, man, because the fruit of this, you know, I think a lot of dudes have just seen like being like the king of queens is just not it, man. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think that, you know, everybody was just hunky dory living in complacency. And then the last 2.5 years happened. It made them take a hard look at who they are. Yep. They had to look in the mirror. And, you know, obviously one of my businesses is very directed into taking those men and making them, you know, the killers that they are on the inside.
Yep.
And those are the conversations that I'm having. And they're like, dude, I'm fucked up and I'm not living right. And, you know, and I want to be a better man for my wife. I want to be a better husband for my wife, my kids. I want to set the example for my kids. And instead of them looking at me going, you're fat, Dad. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not the way that should go. Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot more of that. I'm seeing a lot more vulnerability with like ownership of them being where they're at. And it could be just the environment that I've put myself in. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like there is like a wave of true masculinity coming back. Yeah. You know, to where it was at one point, you know, or a version of it at one point. Yeah. Like kind of the way we talk, the way we, you know, you're the protector, you're the provider, you know. Love you. Tell her I love her too. How's that baby?
Yeah. Doing good, man. I got a man coming into the world right now. We just warming up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. When's she due?
February. Yes.
February,
man.
It'll be a little love baby. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. That's a good month. That's the month I was born.
But I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you, man. I think I'm seeing the same thing in a number of areas that I was kind of hopeless in, you know, because it was kind of painful. And it's also another realm that I want to make more contributions in. It's a realm that I want to develop a pipeline for men to really be able to sit back and be like, you know what? I am a man and I have earned my trash. I can look people in the eyes, you know. And
so can you talk about you run a seminar, right? You run a protector seminar.
Yes.
So can you break that? Yeah. What's the purpose of that? Let's break that down. Let's sell the shit out of this thing right now.
So the Protector Symposium, man, and we just got done with 5.0, the fifth iteration, and it was like one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. Honestly, my media team left. The head media dude looked at me. He's like, dude, this is so much more than just like tactical training, because we go after the culture of being a protector, the protection demographic in the world. Really, it's a place for dudes.
And who's the target demographic? Just so people don't get confused.
Yeah, man. It's kind of the target demographic is anyone who has the protection DNA, anyone who wants to be a protector. If you're a civilian, you're a barista at Starbucks, and you want to learn how to protect your family better, get out here. If you're a single mom 110 pounds, whatever, 100 pounds, get out here and come train.
So this is not for somebody who's looking to get into EP.
This is for everyone.
Right.
And granted, we
everyone
EP dudes, we get a lot of law enforcement dudes, we get spooky dudes that can't tell me what their background is, that come through. I mean, we had 120 people at the event. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had, I want to say 80 that actually stayed the whole weekend and did the whole train up with us. It's a multidiscipline train up. So we bring in high level instructors. We had instructor 0, Kawa 2 Alpha. We had Ed Calderon. We had, who was the fourth one? Why is it not coming to me right now? We had my training director, Rick Sweeney, who was teaching protective driving. So we got to do contact driving, pit maneuver, counter pit. Kawa 2 Alpha, Ed Calderon, Protector 0, Instructor 0, and why can't the fifth one come to me right now? But the point,
poor guy.
we have a multiple disciplinary weekend. We train you on all these different levels. And by the end of the weekend, you come out the other side with an experience that'll honestly change your entire life and the way you see the world and the way you move. Then you,
I was just about to say it changes your perspective.
100%, man.
Yeah.
And then you get to join our community, which is really just networking with other like-minded protectors. And that's really what we've gone after. It was a place for people to come and be a white belt and be like, hey, look, dude, like, I'm a cop. I know a little bit about pistols, but I don't know about one-man CQB. I've never learned how to get into a gunfight around a vehicle. The last time I did contact driving was in the academy, where I learned how to pit, counter pit, and all that stuff. Ed Calderon did weaponology, which is how to make a weapon out of anything, anytime, any place, anywhere. Just because you're not allowed to be armed doesn't mean you won't be armed. Totally changes your life, right? And then Raul Martinez was all about protecting your CCW. So just because you're carrying a gun doesn't mean you're not carrying that gun for someone like me or you if you get into a situation. You know what I mean? Like the whole I'll just shoot a guy thing is not really good enough or accurate when it comes to actual Mortal Kombat in many cases. So it was an event that was extremely successful. People left and were like, this has changed my life. I'm a new man after this. I'm sad to leave. It was honestly life changing, and I'm standing there looking at everyone. They're all kind of banged up and bruised up and sweaty, afterwards, but everyone's alive, man. It was a beautiful family of protectors. Yeah. Every year it is.
So when's the next one?
So we usually do one of those per year. We aim at October. So October, we will do the next one, but we have the replay where you can still learn from all the different instructors, the science behind or the soft skills of their discipline. And that's just up at our website, protectornation.com or Protector Symposium. So you can
get involved. You can get involved now and start kind of learning the soft stuff and then sign up for the next one.
100%. So we have the whole library back there. So from 1 all the way to 5, it's like 24 of the top instructors in the game talking about many different things, behavioral profiling, CCW ops. Like you imagine it's back there. That library's actually gotten quite huge. So you can start, and this is for people sitting at their house who are like, okay, well, let me start up in my game. I don't have time to go to an event right now. That's kind of why I always follow everything up with something digital to give that value.
Yeah. Yeah. And it keeps them plugged into, like you said, it keeps them plugged into your network. So it keeps them focused on the right things, right?
100%. 100%.
And so, and on top of that, you've got your own EP company.
Yeah, man.
And you actually work with a lot of guys, working with them to train them to get into EP as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's become another one of my passions. So like my mission is to make the world a safer place by making good people more dangerous. And I do that on the civilian side with those live events, the digital products, like the soft skills, like I said, are what really help you live a safer pattern of life. But then the other part of it is The professional side. I grew up in this industry since I was 21. I've operated in over 60 different countries. I've worked every client demographic our industry has to offer. So I have my executive protection company. We work with teams that come to Cali all the time. We have our clients out here. And then also the League of Executive Protection Specialists is where I've been fortunate enough to really train guys. And we started out with the hard skills intensive. So you got a bunch of people that want to get into the industry. They don't know how to do it. I get them in the industry. I mentor them. They come out and they do a hard skills package. This is where we make sure they have the hard skills to actually be legitimate protectors. And the reality is a lot of guys get hired because they're prior military, prior law enforcement. But like, when's the last time they really learned how to drive, brushed up on their medical, and really took a full service shooting package on moving with principal, one-man CQB, low light, all that stuff. So this is, you come through there and your resume is stacked. It's the highest ROI, return on investment course, and most intense executive protection course in our industry. And it's blowing up, man. So that's been awesome.
How long is it?
The hard skills intensive is 8 days. So
8 days.
Yeah, man. So what I've done, man, because our industry is blowing up and you can get into the EP industry, start making six figures without going into $250,000 in debt in college. I'm sitting there getting my master's degree and I'm looking at these silly villains around me and they're all like, looking at what they're going to make with this psychology degree. And I'm sitting there like, man, I've been making six figures since I was 21, just because I was protecting people. I was just kind of like, and now with what I offer, it's like you can spend, the 5 G's or whatever it is, and you can have a whole new career. And I know there's people out there that on their dead end jobs that are just like, I want more. I want to do something harder and more meaningful. And this is the industry to do it. And it's blowing up. The industry's going crazy right now. We need good people. So there's the pipeline.
Yeah. And a lot of those situations you actually break down on your social media again. So anyways, well, dude, go buy his book. Go look at his soft skills. Yeah. Where can people find you again?
Yeah, man. So you can follow me on my primary profile on Instagram, Byron_Rodgers, or you can go to my website, Byron Rodgers with a DRODGERS.com. And that's kind of like where you'll find everything, the EP stuff, the nation stuff, the whole jam, man. It's an honor.
Excellent. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing. Guys, if you guys got something out of this, please screenshot this.
Yeah.
Tag Byron, tag me, tag Always Forward Podcast, and share this with a friend, man. And all of his links are going to be in the description below. Go check him out. Go show him some love. And you guys know the deal. We never quit, never surrender, and we always keep moving forward. See you guys in the next episode.